Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. Thank you so much for joining me. This video is going to feature, yes, more French cleats. I think I have finally perfected the way to put them up on the wall. And also, we're going to be making something over here as well. Check it out. Also going to build some mounts for these really awesome shop fans. I want to thank New Air for sponsoring this video. These mounts are cool. They pivot. And they're on the cleat wall. You want to see how I did it? Let's go. So I have been in the process of putting plywood walls up in the shop. The very back of the shop is still not complete, and it is high time to do so. So in order to do this, we're going to take a circular saw and we're going to cut a little strip off of this piece of Baltic birch plywood. All material used in the process of cladding the walls is 3/4 of an inch thick. At this point, I've taken careful measurements of outlets in any type of junction boxes, and I've cut them out with a jigsaw. And of course, I've also blown up a latex balloon so my sweet little girl can play with it. She really is a delight to have around the shop for sure. Really cool. Hey guys, I want to bring you in here and tell you about this week's video sponsor, New Air. New Air has been a fan of the channel and a sponsor of this channel for a long time, whether it be in refrigerator videos that we've done, but this one, shop fans. Definitely was in need of these. Even in Florida all year round, you definitely need fans in the shop for sure, because it really doesn't get very cold down here. However, if you are in the north and the climate where you live is cold, they have space heaters as well that will do the job to keep you comfortable. I want to thank them for supplying these shop fans. A couple things that are pretty thoughtful, I think, about this company and what they do is that every once in a while you'll see little things that are added, like a wooden handle to click it on and off. And if you have masonry walls, they include an expansion bit as well, so you can install these no matter what your wall situation is. It's pretty thoughtful. Anyway, newair.com, check them out down below, and let's get back to the video. So to install the plywood walls in the corners of the shop, I've had to come up with a solution to where I actually have to extend one of the edges out a little bit. That way it can join at a 90-degree. Here's what I'm talking about with the jigsaw. Definitely take your time, take those careful measurements of putting those holes or those notches in place exactly where you need them for those outlets and junction boxes and whatnot. So to make my life a little bit easier while installing these, I'm making a foot pivot pedal kind of thing. Basically a piece of plywood with another strip attached off center. And you can see here, once the piece is on it, I'm able to use the power of my weight to be able to move the piece up and down to install it just right. Again, if you have something beneath the surface, you want to do a cutout and then put a panel on top of that, letting the next owner know what's behind here, or even let me know in case I forget. Anyway, the process is pretty simple. I recommend getting help for this. I've been doing this for a while and I'm a relatively large dude and can lift these things by myself, but it gets a little precarious when you lift that second piece up. So just be careful if you're going to do this to your shop as well. So this is the most challenging piece yet. I have a window to cut out. I have 2 plug outlets and a junction box as well. I'm using a jigsaw here, and also I'm using a circular saw in a little bit to do some plunge cutting as well. This is a brand new jigsaw for me, and I'm going to explain exactly why I have it. It's pretty crazy. Okay, truth be told, this piece right here was in that jigsaw, and I hated it. I think, honestly, I was just supposed to remove that to begin with. I had my old Bosch for about 10 years and it finally broke. You want to see what happened? Let me show you. Okay. Ready for this? I noticed one time I was just using it and it seemed a bit pliable. Check that out. Time for a new one. It was the one saw that really is not most people's favorites, is the jigsaw, but it was time to upgrade anyway to put it in the cordless line of tools that I have as well. Now here are these plunge cuts I'm talking about with the circular saw. Be careful, do this, take your time, and then you can come back and finish it off with the jigsaw. It makes pretty quick work of this kind of situation. With all the cutouts done, it's now time to install it to the wall. And again, I'm going to use that pivoting thing I made. Yep, there it goes. And it looks like it fit well. I'm actually surprised I did it. That's why I don't have anything ready to fasten it. And speaking of fastening these to the wall, you'll see that I usually first come with a brad nailer just to tack everything in place. And then I definitely come back and install this right directly into the studs using some 2.5-inch wood screws as well. This is when it's really handy to have the brad nailer ready to go, because you're on the second level, you can tack it in place like I told you before, and then you come back with those wood screws. Makes really quick work of this, especially being a one-person shop. Also, I'm gonna give you an example of just why that pivoting thing we're using at the bottom really helps line this up. Using the power of my foot, turned out perfect. And then soon after, I had a visitor.
Yeah.
Is it a shop whale?
No.
What is it?
Whale.
A whale. Look at this thing. Uh-oh. What happened? What happened? Excuse me. You cannot play on a CNC. Hey, girl. Good job. Okay. Come on. Let's go get some dinner.
No dinner.
You don't want dinner? I'm going to make you a pizza.
No pizza.
No pizza. Probably a smart girl.
I got it.
You got it. Huh? Okay. Bye. Huh? Okay, hello. Well, come on. Let's go.
Go outside, Daddy.
You want to go outside?
Yes, Daddy wants to go outside.
Okay, let's go outside. Come on. What are we going to do? Oh, okay. Hey, if you're going to be interrupted mid-project, that's definitely the way to do it, for sure. So cute. All right, now, to attach the pieces at the 90 degree to the other wall, I'm going to show you this technique here. I've doubled up some plywood, I've cut it down, and then I'm just going to tack it in place here with some Star Bond and some regular glue, and then come back and screw it in place. Well, I'm actually struggling with this a little bit. I sped the camera up, but I'm not going to lie. It's, yeah. Not going to lie. That was hard. Okay, with some 2.5-inch screws, I don't have access to the stud on the right-hand side of this panel, but I do have access to the plywood that is installed, so that's why that piece is joined at a 90 degrees. Here is what it looks like, folks, without any bells and whistles, but you know what? We can do better than this. I can actually trim these pieces out to make it look a little bit nicer. Yeah, it's a shop, and I get that, but we're gonna use some Baltic birch to make these panel covers and to make the frames that are gonna go around each plug outlet. So we're gonna start this off with some, I believe this is 3/8 of an inch Baltic birch, not quite 1/4 inch and not quite 1/2 inch, but this stuff is pretty cool. And I'm gonna cut pieces basically on the crosscut sled at different lengths that are gonna give me frames that I can just simply put together with, yes, you guessed it, Star Bond and activator. CA glue, of course, one of my favorite tools in the shop. I always invite you guys to use my coupon code listed down below. Save yourself 15% on one of the most versatile tools really that any maker can have in their shop. So this process is pretty simple. Put the glue on and then put the activator on the other adjoining surface. Now you got a frame, really easy. And the bond is super strong for what we need for this application. After that, I'm gonna take my router and just kind of ease over the edges on the inside and outside as well, and then finish it up with some hand sanding. Then we're good to go to install these on the plug outlets. And honestly, this is a very little touch, but it really does finish off the aesthetic and the look of this entire process. And honestly, I wouldn't do it without it. I've done this all over the entire shop, and this is one of those things that I'm gonna advocate that if you do this, definitely take the extra step to put these things around your outlets. It really does look nice. Now I want to turn my attention to the window as well. I'm basically making a small window frame that's going to just kind of nestle in. And of course, it's just made from plywood as well. But honestly, it looks great. It's not necessarily an interior space like you would live in, although some people think I might live out here. Either way, I'm going to finish it with a little bit of this hard wax oil called Odie's oil. And this stuff is fantastic. Not a sponsor, of course, but I just like it. And it's really easy to use. And again, one of these things is gonna make a huge difference. You put the frame on the window and it just finishes it off and it looks really nice. And honestly, I think aesthetics matter into a place that you're gonna want to come into every day, right? Tell me if you agree. Let me know down below if you think doing these little touches is a deal breaker for you, or does it really matter? I really want to get a conversation started that way in the comments, so thanks. All right, now it's time to cut some cleats down. I typically cut down a full sheet of plywood at once. That way I have a bunch of cleats lying around, and I don't have any right now, so it's time to do that. Look at all that. That's a thing of beauty right there. If you want more information on French cleats, I have a video where I discuss 3 different installation methods. I'm gonna link that down below as well. But now it's time to contend with this really sharp edge. After you cut that 45, you have a very sharp edge to deal with, and I just simply run it through the table saw, taking off about 1/8 of an inch. Now you're good to go. So this is the strongest method I find to install these cleats on the wall. Now, without doing something like overkill, like putting 5 screws in a row. That's just silly. Either way, I'm gonna show you, I've made a spacer block here that's gonna allow me to separate these screws about 1.25 inches apart, and I've gone ahead and measured out to separate each one 11 inches apart as well. You can see here it's time to go back up on the wall. And the other reason the 2 screws are great is that if you want to hide a seam, a horizontal seam like in between 2 pieces of plywood like this, you can actually screw into each piece of plywood, joining the whole piece together, which is actually kind of a happy accident, but it worked out pretty well. So I'm using 1.25 inch construction grade screws here. They are countersunk by about 1/4 inch, which really allows the screw to get into the meat of the plywood beneath the cleat as well. And simply, I like my cleats about 11, 12 inches apart, so I've made a couple spacer blocks as you saw, and the installation goes pretty well. Make sure you get one level, completely level, and then you can make perfectly even spacer blocks and work your way up, and you're good to go. Now, let's turn our attention to make the shop fan mounts as well. So I've got some doubled up layered plywood. As you see, I've cut them on the bandsaw. For some reason, the footage, I can't find it. I don't think I recorded it. Either way, you can see that kind of demi-lune or half semicircle pattern there. I traced that out with an old paint can or a bucket, I believe. And then I cut them out on the bandsaw. Now I'm taking those pieces and I'm joining them together with, again, the glue and CA glue method, 90 degrees on another doubled up piece of plywood. I'm then gonna come back once that's finalized and really reinforce that with some wood screws as well. And I'm gonna tell you something real quick about this. I like to put these in at a crazy steep angle. And the reason being is right here. The screw goes through layers of plywood still and has no chance of splitting. Pretty cool little trick there. Okay, these fans came with 3 mounting holes that I'm using to my advantage to attach to this modular French cleat system. However, you can use these holes to attach them to the legs that come with the fans, or you can just put them directly on the wall just as is. Now, turning my attention to the crosscut sled, this is a massive chunk of plywood. It's 4 pieces of 3/4 inch layered together. It's actually an offcut from when I made those big table legs for those 5 dining tables. If you've seen that video, let me know. If you haven't, go check it out. It's a pretty cool one as well. Biggest commission I've ever done. After drilling a hole right in the center, those are gonna be for one of my favorite pieces of hardware that exists today, and it's pretty cool, but I'll show you that in a second. We're gonna attach these to the backs. Again, using regular glue and CA glue, or wood glue and CA glue. Activator makes really quick work, but of course we're gonna come back and reinforce this with some wood screws. These are 4 inches in length, and I like to do it at a very steep angle like this. That way I prevent the plywood underneath from splitting, which is definitely a good technique. Now, it's time to make one more piece to join at a 90-degree angle, but I need them to be identical. And how I'm gonna do that? Well, I'm using blue tape and CA glue to basically attach them temporarily, take them to the crosscut sled, cut them down just as you see here, using the wedge I first cut to go ahead and give me the right angle I need, and then we're gonna take these things apart. And I know I can do it. Oh, goodness. Come on, Chris. There you go. Good job. So glue and brads, and of course some screws as well to reinforce that joint. We're gonna install the bottoms to these mounts, and I'm about to introduce you to one of my most favorite pieces of hardware that exists today. It's called the hanger bolt. After you see me screw these in, a hanger bolt is this. It's essentially a double-sided screw. It's got lag screw on one side and machine screws on the other. And this little handy device that goes into your impact driver threads directly into this hanger bolt, which allows me to install it with ease. No need to jam nut a couple nuts on the end and install it with a socket. You can just use this. It was the best $6 I've spent on Amazon in a long time. And I love this installation method. The lag screws are gonna give me a super strong hold inside there. And then I have machine screws, machine threads sticking out, which are gonna allow me to attach these fans. But before we do that, let's go ahead and install a cleat to the back of these pieces, wood glue, brads, and of course some screws to reinforce as well. Okay, now time for some installation. You put the cleat up on the wall, you put one washer down, then you put the fan on that's been attached to that wooden mount, tighten down a nut, tighten it down pretty good here. That way you've got some resistance still when you want to turn it left and right, and then jam another nut on top, and you are good to go. Of course, plug it in, see how it works. And honestly, this is one of those projects that I've been meaning to try. Like I said before, on a television or a fan, this is really cool. I am so pumped about how this turned out, and I hope it's given you some inspiration and some knowledge about how to do something like this yourself as well. Oh my goodness. And if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. The best part about a French cleat system is that it's modular and you can move things around to exactly where you need them, when you need them. So now it's time to turn our attention to some cable management. I've basically got two pieces of Baltic birch that I've cut down and eased the edges on the disc sander. And then I'm using my drill press with a 7/8 inch Forstner bit to drill out a hole with an exposed edge. You see it's just barely breaking through. Then we're going to sand this down, make sure everything's nice and soft. No sharp edges, no splinters needed, of course. Nobody wants those. And then we're going to attach this to the bottom of the mount. So I really like this method of installing things with glue and CA glue, but of course I like to reinforce them with screws as well. And now let me explain exactly how this cord management system is going to work. That piece right here that we just installed is basic cord management. Real simply, you're just going to kind of wrap this thing around, and the back portion that we just cut is there because it will then feed the cord down, and you can plug it in wherever you want. Now, I get it. There is no real great solution for this, but it's a shop and it's what happens. But that kind of stuff is pretty cool. So let me know what you think. And now for the final test, we're gonna turn this thing on full blast. We got upwards and downwards motion, of course, that's built into the fan, but the left and right articulation, well, that's what we did here in the shop, and I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. And here it is, both fans mounted, at least in their temporary place for the moment. But who knows, I may want to move these things around, and again, that's the beauty of this system. Let me know what you guys think down below, and thank you guys so much for watching. Well guys, thank you so much for joining me for this project. Now I've always wanted to try to use plywood to make something like this, something that either would hold the television or a fan in this case. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised at just how strong plywood is. I mean, why am I even saying that? I'm not. I've used it almost my whole life, so it's really great stuff. If you layer it up, it can be really robust and you can accomplish things like this pretty easily. Also, I want to thank New Air for supplying the fans as well and sponsoring this video. Down below, everything New Air, you'll find their link first thing in the description. And also, if you're in the north right now, it's cold. It's gonna be cold. They have space heaters as well. Check them out. Also, one more thing before I go. My previous video was a kind of my favorite moments from the last 100,000 subscribers. And again, the comments on that video, you guys are incredible. Thank you so much for all of your kind words and the things that you said about how inspiring we are here, or just how wholesome things are at this channel, and that you really do tune in to what we do here, and it really does mean a lot. So thanks again. My name's Chris. I'll see you guys on that next project, and until then, be safe and get out there and make something. Why not? It is kind of fun, as you can tell. Bye.